Welcome to Parenting Differently, where we leave behind the old way of parenting and allow the gifts of motherhood to raise us. Different to how we were raised, perhaps different to how society is telling us to raise our kids, maybe even different to how we expected we would be raising them. Just different. I'm your host, Anya Simmons, so welcome. I'm a speaker, an author. My book is coming out any day now, hopefully by the time this is posted, called Parent from This Place. And I'm a yogi, a mum of two big people. And I came into parenting having been a trained British nanny. And I just, having raised many other people's children, knew that this was just going to be an easy journey. And it wasn't. And I was so unaware how much my kids, the wisdom that they had, how much just being their mother would really open me up to self-learning and to self-realization and being very aware of what energy I was bringing to the table. So I welcome today, I'm very excited to welcome Marjorie here with us today. I had actually heard Marjorie's speech in a Speaker Slam competition, probably at middle last year maybe, and I was super excited when she reached out to share her parenting journey. It's a pretty amazing journey, so I'm super excited to share with you. Marjorie has a Ph.D, is an inspirational speaker and writer, and at the very end you'll be able to find out all her details in the comments below for those listening or watching. So welcome Marjorie, I'm very glad you're here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited about it.
Excellent. So starting with our first question, who are you and who are you mothering?
So my name is Marjorie, obviously, and I'm mothering Thomas, who is now 10 years old. And I think he's the most beautiful 10-year-old ever, and the one that's the cleverest. Although it's not really about the competition, but he's just a really brilliant, very kind human being, and I'm very proud to go along his journey with him.
I love that. His journey with him. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And what are you uncovering about yourself on your motherhood journey? 10 years in now.
Yes. That it's nothing like I had planned or imagined, but like nothing. And obviously, I mean, I'll say what the elephant in the room. I'm a single parent by choice. So that's one elephant.
Mm-hmm.
The second elephant is that when he was 16 months old, I was in a terrible car accident that led me to become paraplegic. So I'm a wheelchair user, and actually I can only use my arms. So anything under my armpits to my toes, I can't feel or move. So certainly, those changed the whole parenting journey for sure. But before all of that, anyways, it was really different. So the 16 months old, the 16 months prior to my accident, it was very, very different than what I had imagined. Mm-hmm. And the irony is that my job in terms of my career was about supporting parents who have an intellectual disabilities. So I was considered a parenting expert.
Fantastic.
I had written a book about parenting capacity assessment.
Right.
So I thought I was,
I got this.
A little bit like you.
Yeah, I got this. Come on, kitties.
I can do that on my own. No problem. I got it. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but very different.
Yeah. And the learnings for you, what he is teaching you.
Oh, well, when he's teaching me, okay, I'm type A, super high strong. Okay. My PhD I had at 25, I was really into that competitiveness and, independence. And he's totally the reverse. He's like mellow, calm. So I had to sort of readjust because my speed was not his speed. And what I learned is that the speed of your kid is pretty much the speed you're going to go at.
God, okay, there's your bumper sticker. That is really priceless information, right?
So I had to just like slow down, calm down, think like, okay, I'm used to doing it this way, but now I can't because it's creating like anxiety because I'm rushing him. And if he's rushed, then it creates anxiety. If it creates anxiety, then he's not doing, right? Because he's in the emotion. And so
Right.
I needed to sort of adjust how I acted with him and the things that I asked him. Like I couldn't ask him to do brush your teeth, go, put your clothes away. Like if there was like 3 or 4, that was too much for him. I just one command, 2 commands, and then he comes back for the rest, but I can't just like throw everything at him. So it's, yeah, that's the first thing he taught me. And then with my accident, he actually taught me how beautiful and kind and loving human beings are, irrelevant of your predicaments. Like I was in a chair, he didn't care, as long as I could play with him. So we played on tables instead of playing on the floor. The only thing he didn't like about that is that when he threw objects on the floor, we were both watching them fall. Nobody was picking them up. So I think that was like an issue. But apart from that, he learned different ways of hugging me. Very early on, he just figured that he could step onto my feet, then sort of put his knees on top of my lap and then turn around and hug me when he wanted. So it was basically not me, starting to or telling him that I wanted a hug. He could initiate the hugging.
Beautiful.
On his own. So it's, that's the 2 major things I would say.
Thank you. Those are both priceless, really priceless kind of moments there. Wow. And in terms of, because I did some research, in your stay in hospital, your parents then moved in, right? And which is phenomenal to do that. I mean, I think who wouldn't? But it is a phenomenal sacrifice because, changing everything and then parenting a little boy whose mum is not there and, so many areas, right? So I know you mentioned about co-parenting, right? And so did that start before you came home from the hospital or once you came home? Like actually trying to, because you had chosen to be a single parent, right? So that was a different path, and now you actually have to share parenting.
I would say just one thing before the accident. My parents were involved on a regular basis with Thomas.
Perfect.
So I think that's important to say. It's not like they were strangers to him. He was being picked up by them 4 days out of 5 from daycare. So he saw them pretty much every day, which I think was a good thing when I had the accident, because basically my parents knew his routine. They knew sort of my house rules, I guess, or the way that I wanted him to be raised. They knew also sort of like the whole house because they would bring him to our house. So that really helped. But the co-parenting started in the hospital because it was important. It took me about 5 days before I asked Thomas to come in my room. I was really banged up. I didn't look well. Obviously, I had tubes everywhere. And I didn't want him to see me like that. And I really thought, I guess, somewhere in my mind, that it wouldn't last that long, that I would be quickly sort of going back home. So he didn't need to see me in the hospital.
Got it.
But my nurses in the ICU sort of knew better, and they knew that it was going to be a long haul. So they told my mom, you have to bring him, or else he's going to forget about her and she's going to sort of just depress, and it's not going to be a good thing. So my parents started bringing him every single day. And at the beginning, he was reactive. I remember the first time he came in my room, and it was like he wanted to crawl above like my mom, and just like he was like escaping. He didn't want to be there. He was crying. Everybody heard him in the ICU unit. It was like
your poor heart.
Ah,
Making
it
that.
was heart-wrenching,
Yeah.
really difficult. And my mom came back without him and said, "That's it. He's in here every single day." Um,
Bless her.
very much. Without my mom, I don't think that I would be a mom right now, because he would have
Mm.
been somewhere else. And at 16 months old, it's pretty young. You don't have
Yeah.
memories that sort of formed at that age. But yeah, so from then on, she would ask me, "Okay, so I'm thinking of doing that this weekend with him. What do you think?" Or I would
Mm.
say, "Oh, I know that there's, like the butterflies at the botanical gardens. Maybe you should bring him." So she
Mm-hmm.
would go, "Okay, yeah, sure, I'll look into it." So the co-parenting started there, but it was
Right.
sort of easy to a point. When I was in the hospital, it got a bit harder when I got back home.
Right.
Because then we were together 24/7
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
living in the same space. So I
Mm.
think that complicated a bit the parenting.
Right.
And it's one thing to co-parent with a partner.
Mm-hmm.
It's another to co-parent with your parents, because we all have our opinions about
Mm.
how they parented us.
Yes. Yeah.
We know about what we didn't like. We know
Mm.
about what we did like, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Oh,
what
yeah.
we didn't
Without even
like.
judgment, just as in that's what we're curious about. That's how we learn, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there were certain things where I was like, "Oh no, you're not doing that to him,"
That
right?
was going to be my
But
next question. So this is perfect. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
it was sort of like, how am I now going to say it in a nice enough way that we could have a conversation about it?
Right.
Because at
Right.
the end of the day, she was, and I say she because it was mostly my mom helping it
Okay.
in the
Mm-hmm.
day to day, but my dad was still there. But she was like my arms and my legs,
Yeah.
right? So if I take
Yeah.
like an example of giving like bath time,
Mm-hmm.
so she would be the one on her knees, sort of holding Taman and bathing him. And I was the one in behind in my wheelchair. And I would say, "Okay, Mammy, now can you wash Thomas's hair?" "Okay, Mommy," like, "Oh, where's the little boat?" And then Mommy would like do the little boat, and so she was really good because she was basically like taking my directives. And
Mm.
we had figured out early on that Tama needed to see that. And he needed to see that even
Okay.
though Nani was the one caring,
Mm.
physically for some of those, special routines,
Sure.
that it was still mummy behind it.
I love that. I wouldn't have even thought of that.
Yeah. And so, another example, when I came back home, he would ask my mom for like, "Can I have juice or can I have water?" And in front of him again, my mom would turn around to me and then she would say, "Oh, Marjorie, Tama would like to have something to drink. What do you think? Should he have something to drink?" And then I would answer my mom and I would say, "Let me think about it. He had like juice earlier, so maybe water." And then she would like turn around to Tama and answer Tama. And the
Right.
reason why we did that was
Mm-hmm.
for Tama to understand that it was much quicker to ask me.
Yes. Yes. He couldn't bypass you. Like, hey, I am the mummy here. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we wanted him to sort of change his behavior of turning to my parents because he had been doing that for the
Sure.
first 6 months. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it was sort of little strategies that we had to make co parenting better.
Right.
Um, but then there was like hurdles. So, like bedtime when he had a big bed,
Mm.
he didn't want to stay in the big bed, right? And he was like 2-year-old and then 3-year-old and then it's 4, and the 4 we know what that is, yeah. He was very talented at that. And
Right.
at one point I had asked my parents for help to put him to bed because he wasn't listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
um, and my dad came down and then he couldn't control him either, and at
Right.
one point he hit him on the bum and
Right.
sort of to try to control him. And
Mm-hmm.
that was definitely something that I didn't want.
Right.
So I
Right.
had to
And you
have that
saw it
conversation.
firsthand too at that point, right? Like it's a trigger in that. And your dad's just doing what he knows, right?
Yeah. But the thing is that Tama was, repeating. so he got the hit, and then he started hitting me. And because I'm in a wheelchair, it's, like I don't have balance. So it became sort of dangerous. So we had to sort of tackle that part. Yeah. So that was like the challenge.
Right.
Sort of negotiating of the parenting and having those tough conversations.
But it did seem as though from the outside, I mean, now after the fact, that they were fully on board with making it the right way for you to be able to fully step back into the role you had chosen, that you wanted, that you were a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was done with, we have a character strength that's very like universal in my family. We're very strong on love. And so we really love each other. And my parents really love me and my sister. And so for them, it was sort of like, this is how much we love you.
Yes.
We are willing to sell our cottage, come back to live in Montreal. We are willing to buy a duplex with you so that we live above, so that if you need help with Thomas, even in the middle of the night, we could just like walk down and help you. And so those were all done out of love. And my mom knew how much I wanted Thomas. I wanted to be a mom. And so it was sort of like her gift of a mom to me. And so, yeah.
Got me a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel that. I can feel that. That's that mother love.
Yeah.
Right.
And just like I wanted to protect him, she wanted to protect me.
Yes. Yeah.
So like 3 generations. And
sure.
I think it's made our relationship now so beautiful. I mean, we've been COVID quarantine last year. So maybe we could have had like huge issues, being stuck in the same space. But I think that we did quite well this year because of that love and that respect that comes from that love.
Right.
And the fact that we have sort of 3 floors, so we could each have our own floor.
Thank goodness for that. Yes. That would help. That would, sure. So staying on a more different note, like what was there from your childhood, and you obviously then saw it around with your parents, that you really wanted to have as part of your son's life? Like when from the beginning to now, like what is something, and maybe the love that you were talking? Right?
Well, the love, certainly. That was like a given. To me, it was having Thomas was out of love, and raising him was out of love. And when my parents did really well, apart from loving us very much, it was for them, it was always important to give us all the opportunities that we could have and want.
Okay.
And so their way of showing the love was sort of to sort of say, you want to do this, or you want to go that direction, or this is like something that interests you, then we go full pin and we help you and we support you. So I think that that's something that I retained, and that I had to adjust also, that has helped me adjust. In terms of my parenting, to sort of know that, it's really not about me. It's really about him. And I was given the privilege to be in his journey. And so my role is really about guiding him. And so it's not about, for example, me wanting him to play hockey. Right? Because at the beginning, I wanted him to play hockey. We're Canadians, we play hockey.
That's a big check mark for Canadians.
And my brother is like a hockey coach. So, and nephews play hockey. Like, so we're a hockey family. Well, Thomas was playing Zamboni. So on his bum, and sort of like that's how he played hockey.
Okay.
So I had to give up. I mean, it was becoming ridiculous, seriously. So it was sort of like, is it really my life? Like, is it about me wanting him to be in hockey? Or is it about knowing or understanding that this is definitely not something he wants for himself?
Yeah, and that's the real awakening, isn't it, for those things that we have these expectations or we have sort of desires, or even if they show a little bit of an interest, you think, oh, okay, how exciting. And I mean, I have it with my daughter and taking singing lessons and a beautiful voice. Oh my gosh, she's going to be a singer. This is perfect. She was done after that one concert. She didn't need to be a singer anymore. And I already had this whole, I'm going to be this mum of the star, you know. And
Yeah.
it's seeing them as they are, that they can show an interest and then back out, or they can, you know, it's like you say, like even if everything is saying yes, if you see them as they are, right? It's not, like you said, it's their life. Those things are their life. And imagine if you have to push and make them do it. Like, I just don't understand that energy. And I know many people have that.
Yeah.
I don't, for that, but I can see how you can, because you're like, no, but this is a family tradition. This is what we do. So
Exactly.
that's great.
And you know what? As you're talking, it actually made me think of something, which it's I think the first time that I reflect on that. When I was 8 years old, my dad wanted a musician from
Okay.
his daughters, and I was really good at piano, and I had started playing piano. I don't know, I was maybe 3 or 4 years old,
Right.
um, and I was fourth in Quebec when I did a
Okay. Wow.
competition, so in the province where I
Mm-hmm.
am. And he wanted me to continue because he saw sort of like, oh, like if you're 8 and you're like fourth, in the
Yeah.
province, like you can go far.
Mm-hmm.
But being a musician that way meant that I couldn't play outside with my friends. And I remember we had a lot of fights every time he was telling me to go practice,
Right.
to a point that I sort of stood in front of my dad, in front of my mom, and I said, I don't want to. I want to go play outside. And we've had like conversation, and he had to let go of that
Yeah.
dream for me, for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little bit like, the example about the hockey for me, for Thomas.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like learning that, yeah, it's really about sort of their journey and not yours, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And how are you at your own self-care and carving out that time, that connection? Now I know COVID changed everything, but in general, time for yourself to fully put yourself first. How are you with that?
Yeah, that I struggle a
Me too.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's difficult. And after I had my accident, it was even like tougher because I wanted to prove that I was the same as before. So I went in and sort of like went back to work full time. I even took a promotion. So I was like with more responsibilities in my
Mm-hmm.
job. Um, and although my job like adapted everything
Right.
so to make it feasible for me, um, I still came home exhausted. I still came home feeling that I hadn't done all my work because I'm not as quick as
Mm-hmm.
before.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take home work. I would try to finish my days at home, which made me a really terrible parent, actually, to Toma at that point,
Mm-hmm.
because Toma was like 2. He was
Okay. Yeah.
rambunctious everywhere. I felt that I couldn't do the physical part of parenting. And so
Mm.
I think that deep down somewhere, I felt I was failing because I couldn't do it like I thought I would be
Right.
standing up. And so I disengaged in my parenting, and went, career, but then
Right.
career was like taking a toll on my body. And then I was even worse of a parent because I
Mm.
was so tired. I would come home at 6 and
Must
I
have
would
been
just be like,
exhausted.
I want you to go to bed.
Yeah.
Like that's all I wanted. And I was like, I'm with him like an hour during that day, like
Mm.
at 7 he's in bed, and all I can think of during that hour is please go to
Go to
bed,
bed. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was like terrible because that, yeah, that, I mean, I fought to have him, and so it was sort of like, now like look what I'm doing. um so it took for my career to sort of take a back burner, because I just burned out. um
Mm-hmm.
went into depression, anxiety. Some of the post-trauma from the car accident also came back. So I had to manage that. And when I started managing that, I went, it's now about me and it's about Thomas. So the work has to go on the back burner. Now, like him and I are the most important people. And that's it. And I would say that COVID actually, there's a lot of like difficult part in terms of COVID times, but we actually grew a lot as a team, Toma and I.
Right.
Where we saw that the proximity, the anxiety, also the unknown of like, can we get sick, how, and so forth.
Right.
The lack of like the isolation, because we were in house, sort of was making us very sensitive about the different things. So we actually took that and grew from there, where we started meditating and we took classes together.
Right.
And so we now like meditate together like every day, and we have a routine. And we do a gratitude journal at night. And seriously, this has made such a difference. And so to go back to your question about self-care, I wasn't good, and then COVID happened and I got better because we needed to get better. Yeah.
Right. And the joy of all that, I mean, that's huge for me. Meditation, gratitude, I mean, to me, that is the piece that's missing for many of us, right? And when we strive or go away from it, we have to find our way back to find that, right? But the fact that you do it with him and he's willing, and it's part of life and part of routine, is just so priceless for both of you, for your connection and journey forward.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Really
Well,
amazing.
see, when he was in school, because he's been sort of homeschooled for the past year, I had registered him 3 years ago to a yoga class because I saw that he had a lot of anxiety. I was a yogi to, like depending on like my journey in life, I've been a yogi sometimes.
Yeah.
And I had said to him, because originally he said, yoga? Ugh, what's that? I said, you try it one semester because I think that it would be good for you. You try it. If you don't like it, that's it. Right. But at least you've tried it. And I was sure that he was going to tell me like, that's it, I'm done. And he's the one who said, oh, there's 3 classes left. Can you register me for the next class? Yeah. And so he had been doing almost 2 years of yoga with a yoga master, like such a priceless person, beautiful person who really made it fun for kids. She told stories about it and she empowered them. And I think that he felt very comfortable in that space.
Right.
And when COVID happened, all of a sudden, no more yoga classes.
Right.
And he needed yoga classes
more than ever. Yes.
So that's how we found a way to sort of like turn the yoga classes into meditation.
Right.
For the both of us, because that's something I can do easily in my chair. I don't need to be
right
in certain poses or stuff. So
yeah, beautiful. Wow. Oh my goodness, let me look over my questions. I think we went on all ways, and it's just so I love the part where you were saying that you thought you would be the same after the accident as you were before, and how your learnings of in the parenting realm, how much that had to switch, and the work it would take for you to grieve what was and accept what is whilst you're parenting. I mean, the thing is, it's nice if you could say, right, everybody hold on, let me deal with my own thing. It is remarkable to me, really remarkable.
Well, see, it's funny because while I write speeches, and there's one that I'm working on right now, a sort of a longer one, not a speaker slam, and in there I reflect on the parenting and sort of the journey in terms of like the accident and what it taught me. And I realized that I would have been like, that's in my speech, I would have been a great parent, but I am an astonishingly better parent because of my accident and me being in the chair. And that's really hard because I still have emotion. I'm like trying to control it right now,
No,
but
let it out.
um,
Yes. Yeah. Feel that.
I didn't want to be in a wheelchair. But because I am in a wheelchair, I had to learn um, certain things about me. I had to learn, to just don't sweat the small stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
just life is just beautiful the way it is. So um, gratitude, appreciation of beauty and excellence, those are things that are now in me and in Thomas, because it's really sort of our journey, our common journey at this point. We learned about being creative and solution finders. Like in my house, if we can't do something and we really want to do it, we just have to find a way. That's it. We find a way. And that has influenced my son to becoming like this engineer, architect, OT type of like personality,
Right.
like thinking, because he's always thinking of the next thing. How can I make this accessible? Or how can I make this so that, it's going to be helpful for people who may not be able to do it my way? Um, and so it's really beautiful because we have sort of those learnings that we grew from, and
Mm-hmm.
it's certainly not what I had planned,
No,
but we
no.
made the best of it, and we try every day.
That's
Yeah,
That's just fantastic. It's very, very inspiring to hear all of that because it relates to every part of us as a person, as a woman, as a mother,
yeah,
right? It's all encompassing.
yeah. And I'm saying all of this. I mean, I'll be honest too. Like there are bad days. It's
Oh,
not all just pretty all the
no.
time. We do fight too, as like.
Yeah. And at
Um,
10, he's got a strong opinion, I would imagine now, right?
yes,
Before it was, you
yes.
could, before you could maybe trick things out, and now it's like black or white, right?
So, I get the rolling of the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing that he learned to become autonomous yet much quicker. So there's a few things that he does. And in my speech, I actually talk about this, how, at 3, he could serve himself breakfast,
Right.
cereal in a
Mm-hmm.
bowl. Um, he could take showers on his own by the age of 5. He can like wash his clothes now, even though
Mm-hmm.
he's 10.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all like beautiful, but he's still a kid. So I still have to remind him, would be nice for you to pick up your clothes from the floor. Mommy is rolling on them, right?
Right.
Or to remind him, shower every day. And yes, you have to wash your hair, right?
Oh my gosh, the lifelong times of wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
He's a kid and I'm the mother. So there's certain rules in the house and there's certain
Right.
habits. But yeah, and so that creates tension sometimes, but we,
Yeah.
we make up after.
There you go. That's right. And that's people. I don't think in any life it'd be crazy for it to just always be pretty and nice because we've got a lot going on, inside. I'm not talking in the crazy world we're in right now, but inside of changing and learning every day, right? It's not there's no break. I mean, we can take the break for meditation, for, tuning out, turning everything off, right? But yeah. So, finishing with my last two questions, because we've kind of touched on so many amazing points here, would be, yeah, I think this could still relate. What would you say has been the hardest part of being a mum for you?
Yeah, to trust myself, my gut instinct, to sort of know that whatever I would do with love. And sometimes, like I'm not perfect and I
Mm-hmm.
was a perfectionist. I'm still am
Right.
working on it. So it was sort of like to go deep and sort of say, okay, that parenting skill right now wasn't the best. We'll readjust.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I've done something that I'm not very proud of, then it's about apologizing to him
Mm-hmm.
and explaining why that behavior happened,
Right.
like if I yelled at him and I'm not proud of it, so that he understands that it's not about him, that those things happen because it's about us.
Right.
And so that even if we're adults, we still have stuff to learn.
Oh, dear.
And that sometimes that relationship of parent-child is, a fantastic relationship to learn a whole bunch of stuff about us
Yeah.
as
I think it's that's it. The parent journey really does do that.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the very last one, what would you tell your younger self when you chose your parenting journey and you first held your little baby? Is there some advice you could give your younger self?
Yeah. The one that comes up is just breathe. Do not forget to breathe.
Oh.
It's, and that goes with mindfulness and meditation, right? Like we go back to the breath. I think, yeah, I wanted too much, too soon, too now, mixed with like perfectionism in all of this. And I would say just enjoy the journey, just like stop, breathe, and just like appreciate what's happening like right here. And I remember like my mom would say, oh, appreciate it. It goes by so fast. And I would be like, I'm tired. I want to sleep. I want to move on to the next level.
Yeah,
Right?
yes, yeah,
There I sleep, you know?
yeah.
Um, and now like he's 10 and I'm like, oh yeah, I wish I could have had like just hold on a little longer
One more
to
little
that
visit.
precious moments because they do go by so fast.
They do.
And that's it. So I try not to dwell on maybe what I missed, right? And
Right.
appreciate and breathe now. So that's like my motto, to
Yeah.
breathe.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much for being here, Marjorie. Thank you for sharing and showing your wisdom and your thoughts and your, you know, super unique story that there's so many lessons for all of us. And so I really appreciate your vulnerability and opening that door for us.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
very much
much.
for having me, Anya.
You're very welcome. Bye.